My name is Richard Bowen. I'm 68 years old, retired, and a father of 3. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but sometimes the things you do in silence deserve to be remembered. If not by the world, then at least by the heart that carried them. 3 years ago, I did something most people might call foolish. I paid off a $170,000 debt for my eldest son, Brian. Not because he asked me to, not because I had that kind of money just lying around, but because his family, my grandchildren, my daughter-in-law, and yes, even he were falling apart. And I couldn't sit back and watch them drown. Brian had always been ambitious. He was the kind of boy who used to take apart the lawnmower just to figure out how it worked, then put it back together without any instructions. He was smart, curious, and stubborn as a mule, traits he got from me, if I'm being honest. He went to college, earned a degree in business, and launched a small marketing startup with his best friend, Caleb. For the first few years, things looked good. He married a wonderful woman named Emily. They had 2 beautiful kids, Maddie and Jack, and bought a modest home in the suburbs outside Atlanta. Brian's business was growing, his reputation solid, and I was proud. But life has a funny way of humbling you just when you think you've figured it out. The collapse started slow, like water seeping through a crack in the foundation. Caleb made some bad decisions. Investments without consulting Brian, contracts with shady partners, money moving where it shouldn't. By the time Brian realized what was going on, they were in deep. A lawsuit hit them out of nowhere. Clients dropped them. The IRS began asking questions, and within a year, the business was gone. So, was the income? They drained their savings just to stay afloat. Emily went back to work full-time as a nurse, but it wasn't enough. The mortgage payments started bouncing. Credit card bills piled up. Brian tried everything: freelancing, driving Uber, taking on odd jobs, but it was never enough to cover the hole they were sinking into. When I found out, it wasn't from Brian. It was from Maddie. She was only 9, but kids see more than we think. I picked her up from school one Friday and she asked, "Grandpa, are we going to be homeless?" Those words didn't just shake me, they shattered me. That night, I sat across from Brian at my kitchen table, and for the first time, he broke. His pride had kept him quiet, but I saw the desperation in his eyes. He told me everything: the $170,000 debt, the foreclosure notice, the fights with Emily, the late-night panic attacks. He didn't ask for help, not directly. But I knew he needed it. I'm not rich. I worked 40 years as a machinist, lived frugally, and saved what I could. After my wife passed, I downsized into a small house outside Augusta and kept life simple. My retirement fund was decent, but not extravagant. Still, I had one thing: equity. I thought about it for days, weighing every possible outcome. Then I made the call. I took out a reverse mortgage on my own home and cashed out a portion of my retirement savings. Between that and selling my truck, I was able to pay off the $170,000 debt in full. Quietly. No fanfare. I just did it. I told Brian the debt was cleared and handed him the confirmation papers. He broke down in tears and tried to protest, but I just looked him in the eye and said, "You're my son. That's all the reason I need." But I wasn't done yet. Emily had always been more like a daughter than a daughter-in-law. She was always kind to me, brought me home-baked cookies during the holidays, called just to check in, and never let me spend a birthday alone. I could see how hard she was fighting to keep the family from falling apart, but she was exhausted. So I gave them something else. My house. I handed over the deed a week later. I told them to move in, start fresh, and rebuild without the weight of rent or mortgage payments suffocating them. They cried. They called me crazy. They said they couldn't accept it. But I didn't let them say no. I moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment across town, modest but clean. And I've never looked back. The first 6 months were rough for them. Brian still couldn't find steady work, and the emotional scars from losing the business took time to heal. But gradually, I started to see change. Emily took on a managerial position at the hospital, and Brian began mentoring young entrepreneurs online. He eventually landed a stable job with a local tech company, lower pay than before, but consistent. Most importantly, they started smiling again, laughing, being a family. One Saturday morning, about a year after they moved into my house, Maddie and Jack came running up to me in the park. "Grandpa, come see the treehouse Daddy built," they yelled, dragging me toward the backyard. Brian was up on a ladder, hammering the final plank into place. Emily stood below, holding the nails. They looked happy, really happy for the first time in years. And I felt something in my chest that no bank account, no stock portfolio, no early retirement could ever give me. It was peace. I won't lie and say it was easy. I miss my old truck. I miss my porch. I miss the big oak tree in the front yard that Margaret and I planted when we first moved in. But when I sit on the apartment balcony with a cup of coffee and hear laughter from the video call with my grandkids, or watch Brian fixing the leaky sink like the man he used to be, I know I made the right choice. Sometimes, saving someone doesn't look like a miracle. Sometimes it looks like sacrifice. Quiet. Unseen. But real. The story doesn't end there, of course. There's more to tell. How they repaid me in ways that didn't involve money. How Brian eventually found a way to honor the gift I gave him. How I discovered joy in ways I never expected this late in life.